Well, shaking people, back with another reaction, back with some more Spandau Ballet. And we're back for the big one. We're back for True from the album of the same name, 1983. I don't remember exactly what I said at the beginning of this deep dive, but I assume I mentioned I am familiar with this song. As I think I mentioned, my sister and my mom both listened to a number of 80s groups when I was growing up. And my sister is like 12 years older than me, I think 12 and a half. So she was in high school. She was a teenager when I was like, 3, 4, 5 years old. So ultimately, I remember her playing this song. I certainly remember hearing it on the radio, so I don't know for certain, but I would assess, given those memories, that this was a hit in the US and was played, on the radio and perhaps, on music videos, on TV, and so on. Either way, I can't recall a lot of the song as I sit here. I can recall the ha-ha-ha-ha-has, the sort of melodic setting, like breathy type of vocals. What's the line, like I bought a ticket to the world and I've come back again or something to that effect, but I don't remember the larger essence of the tune. I would expect it to relate to staying true to yourself and your emotions, maybe to someone else, not betraying their feelings, but I would expect it to be in relation to being true to emotions in one respect or another. Either way, I have a sense of the overall sonic atmosphere. It's very like tender, for lack of a better word, so it'll be cool to reconnect to this. And once again, shout out to those who were a bit older than me, the target audience of a song like this, whereas again I was sort of drafting on my older sister and older brother and mom and dad's musical taste, which is nice because again I grew up with a lot of sonic diversity being played in my house, and I think that translated into a musical omnivore that you see before you. So in any case, let's listen. This is Spandau Ballet. The tune is True, and it's from the album of the same name, 1983. It's just certainly since then, but not particularly recently, so I was very nostalgic right there.
So true, funny how it seems, always in time, but never in line for dreams. Head over heels, went toe to toe.
Shout out to Tears
This
and
is
Fear.
the sound of my soul. This is the sound.
Somebody else too.
I want a ticket to the world, but now I've come back again. Why do I find it hard to write the next line? Oh, I want the truth to be said.
As a writer, I understand.
I know this much is true. I know this much is true. With a thrill in my head and a pill on my tongue, dissolve the nerves that have just begun. Listening to Marvin all night long. This is the sound of my soul. This is the sound, always slipping from my hands. Sands a time of its own. Take your seaside on to write the next line. Oh, I want the truth to be known.
To write the next line. But it's like, it's a meta lyric.
Much is true. I know this much is true.
Even up to like a few moments ago, I didn't remember. In this moment, almost has a bit of a reggae feel. Like pop reggae.
I found a ticket to the world, but now I've come back again. Why do I find it hard to write the next line? Oh, I want the truth to be said. I know this much is true. I know this much is true. This much is true. This much is true. This much is true.
I don't remember this part at all.
This much is true. This much is true. This much is true. This much is true.
It feels sort of like an extended mix, but I get it. It's just it's on the album. It makes me think, the version I probably heard, like a radio cut, a single cut or something. A long fade for the final track. Oh, Hadley's still singing like that. They told me, we only paid for the studio for so long. We gotta go, dude. But it's classic. It's, to me, it just like it's saturated with that feeling of the '80s. Even if it wasn't quite for my generation, right? Like, I'm born in '80, which is weird. I was talking to someone about this very recently. It's like I'm either very late Generation X, or I'm like slightly pre-millennial, meaning, I became an adult a couple years before 2000. So, like, again, I don't know quite where I fall in, but either way, it's the kind of song that I think for, teens and people in their early 20s, like young adults, I think this is more in that vein. But it's funny because I was thinking in advance, like being true to yourself and so on. I think maybe that's part of it, but it really sounds like the way the word is being used is that, like, I know this much is true. So, like, he's saying whatever else happens, I have some foundation, I have some anchors that I can rely upon to make sense of what's happening in my life. So it felt like that was really the essence of the term, even if on some level that would imply you're trying to be true to yourself and you're trying to not betray your own feelings and so on. But yeah, it seemed more about like, okay, what do I know? Like, what is true? Well, I know this much is true at least. But yeah, as I said, I didn't remember if there was sax in it, but I did know it was a possibility given that we have heard it on a couple other tunes from them. So yeah, it was nice to hear that. And yeah, that last part with those sort of like repetitive, not repetitive, that sounds like a negative, repetitious, repeating like they were sort of like backing vocals that sort of went for that larger like couple measures anyway. That section I don't remember hearing at all. Now granted, part of it is it's a tune I've heard a handful of times over the years since hearing it in my youth, and maybe it's just it wasn't fully familiar. Maybe it was, as I said, because I probably heard the single cut or maybe the radio edit, because I don't remember the version that I heard being quite that long. Was that like, it was like 5.5 minutes or something, I want to say. More. It was actually over 6 minutes. So, I mentioned when I was going through Madonna's first couple albums, I was like, dude, there's like 3 or 4 tracks on these first couple albums that are like 7 minutes long, like 6.5 minutes long. And it felt a bit surprising, not in a bad way. I like a longer tune, it's certainly as a DJ, when it comes to longer tracks, it gives you more possibilities to work with, but it was surprising to hear it go that long, because my memory of the tune was that it was, a bit more of a like nice and tidy, 4-minute radio track or something, so it was cool to hear it extend beyond what I thought. I do wonder if we often, we being people who heard the radio, whatever age you were in the 80s, heard a slightly more concise or reduced version. Either way, a top tune, cool album, and it's funny, going into this, there were some different opinions about Spandau Ballet. I'll never forget, I think Philip said he viewed them as sort of like a cabaret band, which still makes me laugh when I think about. But I don't know, I like their use of some horns and some funky elements. They also have this dancing vibe in a lot of their tunes, so it's cool, and it's it's an 80s flavor, but not identical to some of the other classic vintage 80s groups that I'm going through who were making music at the same time. So again, shout out to Spandau, shout out to Hans Solar for sharing the material, shout out to Lori and a few others who I think have taken an interest in the Spandau reactions over the course of its duration. In the moment, I don't remember if there's another album in the larger folder. I'm sure Hans Solo will comment, but yeah, in the moment, I'm not remembering. But this is definitely the last one from this album, so shout out to a cool album, and ending with, it occurs to me, they must have known that's a killer tune. It's, it's one thing to name the title track, and if it has conceptual relevance to what the album's doing at large, I certainly get it, but yeah, it just feels like this is, remembered as such a hit. I think, it was played on the radio a lot at the time. I imagine it was one of those things where when they were producing it, they're like, this is going to be a hit. This is a tune. So either way, let me know what you think. I will see you next time. Peace.